I have the perfect tool. This tool would radically change their marriage. And this is probably the number one tool. And then the fourth step is, I was wrong for not standing up for you. We respond to pain. That's when we start hurting each other.
Casey, why do you think so many people crave love, but sabotage it once they have it?
We were definitely created for connection with other people. I mean, that was at the core fear that we always live with is to be alone, to be isolated, to be disconnected. And I think that, when we do find love, there's so many myths about love that really foul up our opportunity to learn and to grow. For example, when Megan and I first got married, we just thought love was all you need because dating was so easy that we were just like, let's do this forever, right? Let's do this forever. And we're just going to walk off into the sunset happily ever after. But then once conflict started, we had no tools on how to manage that. We were broken. We were hurt from all of the childhood baggage that we brought in. And then once the angry outbursts started, then there was anger and resentment towards each other. And that was really what started to break our relationship apart. So we would say that couples need frameworks. They need tools to build a healthy marriage. We can't throw platitudes. We can't even throw verses at them because then it's like, well, what am I supposed to do with that? You can't, theorize your way out of a unforgiven heart. You have to have tools and framework to walk yourself out of that.
What would you say to the couple that realizes what you just said? Right. I know scripture and I've been to the church service or the conference or whatever it is, but I have no tools. What is a tool that I can use to start being equipped to have the marriage of my dreams and to get out of these, like what you said, when you start fighting after dating for so long, all of a sudden it's like, wait, why are we butting heads so much now when we got along fine for years?
Well, here's what's interesting, Joe, is I was a youth pastor and I would teach the high school pastor. I would teach the kids, I would lead worship, teach them Bible study. And I'd come home and I'd cuss Megan out. So, when during that season, people would just say, put Jesus at the center of your marriage. I was like, okay, done. What am I supposed to do with that? So being raised in the church, I was always told what to do. You should apologize. You should forgive. But no one ever talked to me how to do that. I have not yet today heard a sermon on how to apologize in a way that actually brings about true reconciliation. So here I am. I look at Megan and I'm sorry. I apologize. So should that be that all's forgiven and done? Or, as Michael Scott walks in and says, I declare bankruptcy. I think that's kind of what we walk into relationships going,
right.
You are forgiven, but we don't understand the mechanics of how that actually works. So we actually teach a 4-step apology process that validates the pain, takes responsibility, figures out how can we rebuild trust, and then does ask for forgiveness. And it's been a really cool tool to teach couples, mainly in crisis. We do these 2-day intensives where we'll work with a couple that's, teetering on the edge of separation or divorce or an affair recovery. And it's a really interesting position to think that I've walked hundreds of couples through this apology process with my wife and I. And we'll spend 4 to 5 hours apologizing back and forth, like a little tennis match between the husband and the wife. 4 to 5 hours apologizing to each other. Now, I will tell you, if you do it the right way, and sometimes when you're really, really hurting, you do need a third party to kind of referee the thing. It's the closest thing to magic I've ever seen. The most hardened heart with a properly placed apology softens. The pain of the past starts to deteriorate and evaporate because that is true reconciliation. Now, again, you can't just sit there and tell them you guys need to apologize to each other because they'll look at each other and go, sorry. But what happens is a lot of couples get stuck in the same patterns. They're fighting over the same things because that apology wasn't really an apology.
Can you, I want an example. Like, I want to know how this really goes down. Like, how do you, like, as the facility? Yeah. Like, I want to know because it like sounds so great, but I'm sure it's not pretty the whole time. I'm sure
Yeah.
it gets a little heated and there's tears and there's a lot of emotions. Like, how do you facilitate that? And what does it really look like? Because here's what I would say is like, yeah, we want to encourage couples who are listening to this podcast to be like, yeah, go apologize for everything. But it's like, then you sit down and it's like, what do I do? Or it'll start to get like a heated argument or really emotional. And they'll be like, I can't do this anymore. But really, that's the whole point of it, is to get those emotions out, to let them know how it made you feel in that moment versus like, it's not pointing fingers. It's no, this is the way that I felt. And so
Yes.
I would love an example of like, what does that actually look like?
Yeah. So the 4 steps to that apology is to really to say, I'm sorry for, and then we have a formula of inserting the action that you did plus the feeling that you evoked in your spouse. So for example, I'm sorry for always being on my phone and making you feel deprioritized. So what I've done right there is I've said, this is what I did. So I'm taking responsibility and accountability for my actions. And this is how you felt, which is validating to the listener. Think about that.
Yeah.
Because you just say, well, I'm sorry for being on my phone all the time, but work's always, there. See what I just said is I said, but. Now, Sir Mix-a-Lot loves big butts, but in the apology, it is not where it places, because what did I just do?
Yeah.
I just excused my behavior. I just
Mhm.
totally erased it all. I'm sorry for yelling at you, but you were coming at me, right? So see, but that's not an apology. So to be able to say like, I'm sorry for putting the kids in front of you and making you feel, again, like not a priority and not important and not, a teammate. Second step is then to say, I was wrong. Now here, 3 simple words. I was wrong. But the ego and the pride get in the way because we do not want to say that we were wrong. And at this point, we coach couples through intent versus impact, because there are certain things like I don't believe couples wake up in the morning and go, you know what? How can I intentionally really piss off my spouse? When they bring me my coffee, I'm just going to give them a real curt, short, sarcastic comment to make them feel little. But I think what happens, we're just doing the best we know how, but still we can hurt our spouse. But see, an apology isn't about us. An apology is what we do for our partner. So when we're apologizing, though the intent may be honorable and good, yes, you're working hard for the family, but the impact that it's creating and the noise it's creating is what you're apologizing for. Then the third step is then this is probably the longest step, is we said, hey, how can we make this better? Meaning, let's not do this again. What are some boundaries? What are some rules that we need to put in? Hey, if it's work always wins, you're always on your phone. Hey, let's have tech-free nights on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Like, let's have, hey, at the dinner table, can we just put our phones in the other room? Because the most important people are in this room right now. Now that's where a lot of couples can struggle, because now we're setting up boundaries. And if you're angry with somebody and you set up a boundary, it's going to be unrealistic. It's going to be extreme. It's going to be overbearing. It's going to be all about control. It's going to be about punishment. You can never be on your phone again. Right?
Yeah.
So that's sometimes where a third party can help step in and say, okay, hold on, that's not realistic. Or what's achievable even. Right? You make those rules so extreme that's like you're bound for failure. And that takes a lot of time. That's a lot of discussions. I'm sorry for allowing my mother to come in and tell you how to parent and making you feel, right? There's all sorts of feels there. Controlled, like you don't know, like you're stupid, like you don't love our kids. I was wrong for not standing up for you. How can we make this better?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, now let's have a conversation about how you're going to talk to your mom to ensure she does not come and belittle me, right? And then the
Mhm.
fourth step is really, will you forgive me? This could be a whole podcast in of itself, because the forgiveness, I don't ever ask my clients or my couples I'm working with to say, yes, I forgive you, until you feel like you can. So sometimes it's, I want to forgive you. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Let me readdress that later, right? But forgiveness for me is, we talk about, no one ever feels forgiveness. And I do believe that there's kind of a framework of where forgiveness starts, which is in the mind, because
Mhm.
our thoughts determine how we respond to someone. So when I say I forgive you, that means I mentally, right here, my thought life and my beliefs about who you are needs to change.
Mhm.
So sometimes we have couples like journal 5 things that you love about your partner while you're going through that forgiveness process,
Mm.
because you want to rewire that and circumnavigate that pain in a sense, right? Because when we
Yeah.
respond to pain, that's when we start hurting each other.
Mm.
So
Well, I
once
think
we,
that even
oh,
goes on, like, biblically, like when the Bible says to renew your mind. Like, this is what it practically looks like within your marriage. Like, these are choices, like you said, it starts in your mind because it's a choice.
yep,
Like, you don't feel it in your heart at first, but it is a choice. I am choosing to forgive my spouse by
mhm,
renewing my mind on how I view them, how I see them. And that's just so good and deep. But like, even like the renewing of your mind process, like people don't know what does that mean? How do I renew my mind? And but this is practically, like, specifically within our marriage, this is what it looks like. This is how
yeah,
we renew our mind.
yeah. Well, Proverbs says that, so as a man thinks, so is he.
Hmm.
So it all starts in our thought life, right?
Yeah.
Take captive every thought. So
Hmm.
when you walk in, your spouse triggers you, we're supposed to take that thought captive and go, whoa, whoa. Right now, my thoughts are saying that they're the enemy. They're out
Yeah.
to get me. They don't love me. And when you respond out of that, then we're going to respond in manipulative, controlling ways, and we'll receive it as a threat. So either we're going to attack, or we're going to flee. So fight or
Hmm.
flight.
Yeah.
So once we change our thoughts, then it changes the way we respond to people. And then that's actually, once we start acting in that way, acting out of forgiveness, then it actually does change our heart for our spouse. And then
Hmm.
that becomes a habit, right? So we kind of
So
do a
good.
head, hands, heart habit.
I love that.
So good.
That's so good.
Why do you think that in marriage we get to that place, like you just said, that my spouse wants to complain about something, but I receive it as criticism? Because
Mhm.
for going back to what you said, for years we've dated, so I should trust her more than anybody. But why have I drifted to this place of, she doesn't want the best for me, she's just criticizing me now because this is who I am, as so many
Mm.
people say.
Yeah. Well, criticism comes from unmet needs, right? I've tried to express my needs several times. You're not listening. It's still not met, and then it turns a corner where it's sharp and critical. So I mean, that's where I see criticism and its play. And so usually when I'm coaching a lot of husbands that feel um, they're not living up to their role in marriage, they're not there for their partner. I'm always asking them to say, hey, reframe that critical statement, say, what can I do in the future to make sure that I can do that? Just know that they're coming from a hurt place, and hurt people, right? So that criticism is going to be sharp and pointy. So start to redirect to say, well, what would you like me to do in the future to get that off of, because if you respond to the criticism directly, then it's just going to be tat for tat, right?
Hmm.
Or worse, you're just, heading to the back room like, I'm out. I'm out.
Right.
Well, I hope as everybody's watching, they're even taking notes, because I just wrote that down, that what can I do in the future to get
Mm,
that off of you? What can I
yeah.
do in the future? because again, you're acknowledging your spouse that, okay, she's bringing a complaint. She's not criticizing me. And she probably has a good idea of what she's looking for because I can't read her mind. And so for everybody that's watching right now, if that even resonate with you, I want you to hit that subscribe button, because what Casey just said is so impactful. Look at that. There's a celebration. You just hit the subscribe button. You got confetti. That you're showing your spouse you care about the future. I can't fix the past, but if we can talk about what that thing was right now, and you can help me come up with an idea of the way that I can handle this in the future, then I shouldn't be living life on repeat and going in the cycle, like what you just said, which is so true, moving from complaint to criticism.
Well, I even think, like, as a wife, like, if I heard you say that to me, that brings such security to me, which is like my deepest need, is like, oh, wait a minute. It gets me outside of even this argument. Like, wait, you're actually providing security for me for my future in our relationship. Like, this isn't just about this, but like, you're looking ahead to bring that security to me the next time.
Yeah.
And that would, even in that moment, because, you know, you get all hot headed and like in your feelings and all that kind of stuff. And so to like even get your mind off of that and say like, oh, wait, he is trying to be better for the next time.
Well, it just reminds me of, we were doing some coaching this week, and one of the things that she was sharing was that how she feels he's the provider. He is meeting those needs, like you just said, right? Like the security. He's a police officer. His schedule changes week to week. And so it's hard to set up a consistent schedule for them. And so, but she even said, she's like, we keep making this excuse, but we know his next week's schedule this week. It's not like it's, but
every day you wake up, it's different.
But for her, what she said, she's like, because they have two littles in the house, like littles. What, 6 and under, 6 and 2?
Oh, like 4 and 2.
Okay, 4 and 2. So littles. So they are taxing, right? It's happening. And so we were talking about this, where you're talking about the criticism and the complaint and where they at. And just to your point, she's like, I feel like I've been complaining in a healthy way, and now it's getting to criticism. She's like, I wake up already boiling. Like she's already at that level of boiling. So what would you say even to someone like that?
Oh, I have the perfect tool. I hope she's listening to this, because this tool would radically change their marriage, as it has for thousands of other marriages. And this is probably the number one tool that we teach. It's and any sort of coaching, all the intensives. I run men's groups. This is the non-negotiable. You not should do this. You must do this. Okay. It's called the weekly marriage business meeting. And I don't know if you can see. Actually, right there. Okay. So let me explain why this eliminates probably 50% of conflict in relationships.
Wow.
Like literally taking the boiling point way down because of this. This is why it works. And I'll explain what. So many couples live life very reactively. And this is what's so fascinating is we all work, right? Like you're building a career, you're running a business, and we're so proactive in those areas of our life. You know, we show up on time. We've got KPIs and goals. We know what our task is. We usually have weekly meetings. Here at Marriage 365, we got a team of 15. Every single week we're aligning the team with these are the things that we're trying to accomplish this week. Now, on the opposite, could you imagine if the team meeting, everybody shows up? All right, guys, everybody just do great work. Have fun. Just go out there and answer emails and, do your work. It would be chaos. So we're so structured. We're so like intentional in all these different areas of our life. And even when I, coaching entrepreneurs, they totally get that because they're like, oh yeah, well, I've got a business operating system. I got a coach, I got my leadership team. You guys as pastors, right? The same type of thing. Like we got to have our staff meeting. We got to talk about what's coming up the week ahead, celebrate our wins, things like that. And then when we walk through the front door, it's just jungle ball. It's total reactive. There's no intentionality. And every single day we wake up, it's like we're living from one stress to the next. So the weekly marriage business meeting was something that we came up for for our own marriage. And that was on Sunday nights, Megan and I sit down and we first go over all of our week schedule ahead. And everything is in our calendar from, our work tasks, meetings, picking up our kids from water polo practice, even our meals. So we go through our schedules, and that kind of hits a lot of like the meal plans, connection time. Like we'll schedule our date nights. Oh, we got this morning open. Let's go grab coffee together. We even schedule sex. Yeah, baby. And now we get the most pushback because people say, well, when you schedule it, doesn't it take the romance out of it? No.
Right. You know what takes the romance out of it? Not doing it.
Exactly.
That's not romantic. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, it's Wednesday nights is scheduled because the kids are at youth group. It's hump day, right? And guess what?
We gotta change our schedule. How did we miss that?
Yeah.
Well, we put it in our calendar. It's actually listed as nap time because we didn't want our kids to know like what we're doing. And you know what nap stands for? Naughty and playful.
Naughty and playful. Come on, naughty and playful.
Nap time.
So you're not lying. You're not lying.
Yeah. So it's so funny because my daughter, when she started to recognize patterns, she's like, why are you guys taking a nap at like 8:00 at night? It's like,
that seems weird.
Mommy and Daddy, you just had a long day right before we go to bed. It's our rest time. Anyways, all that to say, there hasn't been a Wednesday night where Megan and I looked at each other and said, that didn't really satisfy because it was scheduled. Right?
Yeah.
It's never the case.
Never.
Anyways, all that to say, we have connection time, self-care time as well. So super important that we recognize that you can't pour from an empty cup. And if you're going all day long from one thing to another, and I know specifically for young mommies, the mental load of motherhood is intense. And so we always encourage, there has to be something in your calendar that schedules time for you to recharge your batteries.
That's right.
It's working out, hitting the sauna, taking a walk, getting alone, getting the nails done, whatever. Hey, whatever it takes. So anyways, all that to say, and there's some good questions like, what is something I can do to help you out with this week? Great question. How can we prioritize our relationship this week? We were just coaching a couple that their nighttime routine was pushing out all of their ability to connect. Bedtime started at 7 and didn't end until 10 with one of them sleeping in their bed. And we're like, whoa, that's got to stop. But they're like, well, we're just so tired at the end of the day. I was like, okay, so that's reactionary living.
Right.
What we want to do is start being proactive to say, where are our times in our calendar where we can prioritize us? You guys, this is like the practical and tactical blocking and tackling of life and doing life as a family and a marriage. It requires this level of intentionality.
Yes.
And you can do that, you're going to win.
Well, especially in our busy culture today, especially we're on the West Coast, both of us, we just found that out. That we live right down the road.
We're like 20 minutes from each other.
West Coast, the best coast. But you're right. So you have soccer practice, you have football practice, basketball practice, you're going to the gym, youth group, small group, right? Counseling session. There's so many things. And when you don't, so this is something that Krissy and I, tonight we have something for the kids for their school, but then also we had a
dinner meeting.
Yeah, dinner meeting scheduled. And I took a screenshot because I saw on the calendar, I sent it to her. I was like, these overlap. Does that mean one of them is just like we jump out of early, we can go whenever we want? She's like, oh crap. But again, if you're not, and again, this sounds bad, but like living and dying by the calendar, and that's even like what we found. And just to your point, we started doing like, not to say it's block scheduling. It's like, so she has nights that she initiates sex. I have nights that I initiate, because we found our just exhausted, right? So we also got blood work done. Where we at with our hormones? Like what's going on inside of Joe? Because listen, it doesn't matter. I tell her all the time, I was like, if you wake up with one of the kids at 3 a.m. and you can't fall asleep, feel free to wake me up because I'm ready. Like I'm just always ready. But then it started happening that at 7, 8 o'clock, I'm so physically tired that even if we talked about we're having sex tonight, I just wasn't mentally there. So it's like
something's wrong.
There's something wrong
Something's
with me.
wrong.
I have to get this checked out. So we did. But even on that journey where we just had the discussion of with how busy our life is, we don't want to miss this because Krissy says this all the time. This is the only thing you can bring your spouse
that nobody else can.
Like when you look at the 5 love language, somebody else can affirm you, somebody else can bring you a gift, somebody else can give you a high five, pat you on the back, whatever. But like when it comes to this intimacy, when it comes to sex, and if we're saying, well, I'm too tired, or the kids are in the room, you know, like I'm just like what you said, they're just responding now. I'm just tapped out. Where it's like, no, we have to be proactive. And so I actually sat down with a couple of our leads yesterday for church and walk them through how I schedule out. Everything is on my calendar. And I just really showed them, I was like, I have a to-do note and I put everything on there, what has to get done. Then I go through and prioritize, okay, what's going to start? I started off my days pretty early. So like, I don't even write this down anymore. It's just habit. But like when I'm up at 4 a.m., having my devotional, 5 a.m. gym, 6 a.m. home, 6:30 shower, 7 a.m. making breakfast, 7:15 done with breakfast, out the door by 7:45, taking my kids to school, dropping them off, 8 o'clock. Now I have time to make a phone call to do something. And I was like, now that's just like in me. I just do that. But then the other stuff that it shifts day to day, I write that down my to-do note. Then I fill it in my calendar. So not only do I see it, but my wife sees it. So she knows, oh, Joe's in a meeting. I can't call him right now, right? He is doing the Married Life podcast. I can't interrupt right now. Oh, Joe's free right now. This is a good time for us to connect, to talk, fill in the blank, whether it's Married Life content, whether it's Vivid Church information, whatever it is. So what you said, so many couples miss, and it's so true. Business leaders, entrepreneurs, they get this. Coaches, they get this in that world. But then it's like, but if I bring this into my home world, it's not authentic.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Well, or they just feel like, again, we're going back to what we talked about earlier. There's these myths of like, we should just figure this out.
Right.
So why would I be intentional with my marriage? It's it's a disconnect. We talk about 2 extremely healthy mindsets to make marriage work. And I use the picture of like a lattice and a vine. Okay. The first mindset, well, let me go back to what we just talked about. The first mindset is intentionality. And that's the lattice, right? It's the structure by which we hold our life together, right? I mean, you talk to anyone that's been successful in achieving their goal, that's meaningful, had a successful family, had a successful marriage. No one has a successful marriage on accident.
Right.
No one has a great sex life, by the way, on accident.
Say
You
it
gotta talk
again.
about it.
Come on.
So I think there is something God-given talent for us to have volition, will, and intentionality to create goals and purpose for our life. That is a God-given talent, uniquely given to us. And it's so sad that not as many people use that gift. So that's a structure, right? The weekly marriage business meeting is a structure, right? But there's another part of this that will make complete sense to all entrepreneurs and business leaders out there. And that is this sense of curiosity. And curiosity is the vine that organically just kind of weaves in and out of that structure. That truly, you can't have one without the other, right? The vine will die without the lattice. And there's no life if you just have structure.
Right.
So you do have to incorporate this sense of curiosity. And every single one of us that's married has had a sense of curiosity, wonder, and awe about our partner. Because when we first met that person and sat across the coffee table or the dinner table at that restaurant, we're just looking at this person. We're like, who is this person? What are their hopes and their dreams and desires? Do they love their mom? Where do they want to go in life? Like, are they excited? What are they passionate about? What are their gifts? And we ask all these amazing questions to draw out like a bucket of that's plumbed into the deepest well of someone's heart, and you pull this juice out and you're just like, man, that's amazing. And to be on the receiving end of all these great questions, like, wow, this person's really into me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we are communicating something really, really powerful. And that is, I desire you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm passionately pursuing you right now. And what I find most common in marriages is that was there in the beginning. And then through the routine of life, because we have no structure, the vine just dies.
Wow.
The vine just lays on the ground and dies. It doesn't bear any fruit. And couples, when you think about they stop being curious about each other. You're communicating without saying it. I'm bored. I'm not interested. And I know you're not trying to intentionally do that, but I want to communicate how powerful of a message that is communicated without any words is when we stop getting curious about how our spouse is doing, checking in with them. What's working, what's not? Like, what do we need to change to make our marriage a priority? We get wrapped up in kids, child-centric marriages. Guys, we get wrapped up in work. And we're seeing now that the second season of divorce is when the kids leave.
Mm-hmm.
That gray divorce, that trend is so real. I coach so many husbands that have their wives are just looking at them like, I don't know who you are. I don't even know if I like you. We were doing this for the kids. Which, by the way, I have a whole nother thing about doing it for the kids, which great. What kind of example are you showing to your kids by having a loveless marriage?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not that I'm saying I'm a fan of divorce, but if someone's completely checked out of the relationship, there's got to be some hard boundaries to get that, the paddles back on that marriage.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
anyways,
to your point, exactly, because you're modeling that marriage to your kids. So your kids are going to go out and they're going to have the same marriage. Like, oh, well, this is what it is.
I saw some roommate. My parents were roommates. We should be, no. Like, that's what they see. Like, I just looking back, like when you see, our goal is to gross our kids out in the kitchen and we do it.
Yes.
They do this. They're like, ew. And they got they're looking through. I'm like, you really like it. But that should be our goal, is our kids should see those things. But the reality is most of the time they look like roommates because they're keeping it together for the kids. And they're not actually seeing the marriage part of it, the love, passion, curiosity part of it.
Well,
yeah. Well, and I would say what we're seeing though is, the kids don't see any life in the relationship. And the changing comment is, let me ask you a question. Would you want your children to have the same marriage you're living out right now?
Yeah.
And that's usually that's an oh boy moment right there.
I'm writing that down.
It's so good. And I think when your kids aren't being grossed out, if they're not getting, I'm just thinking about my own kids. They're getting grossed out. They're getting upset when we're going on dates because our kids are kind of little. We have 10, 7, and 4 in the house. And it's like, they're getting mad that we're going on dates. They're getting mad. They're getting grossed out. They get mad when they have to go to bed at a certain time because, from 8:30 to 10, because we're pretty strict. He gets up at 4. We got to go to bed at 10. And so it's like,
and we have that conversation with them. We're like,
this is why.
This is our time.
This is our time together. Get out of my bedroom.
Guys, and I just want to affirm you, because our kids don't do, this was the parenting advice that changed everything for me. Our kids don't do what we tell them to do. Our kids do.
That healed something in me. Thank you. Keep going.
Our kids do what they see us doing. So, I've told the kids several times, listen, we are not, the motto around here is, we're not raising happy children. We're raising responsible adults.
I say it all the time.
Yeah. See?
I do. I'm not raising kids.
Yeah, it sets the tempo. Like, hey, from the day you were here, you're being prepared for graduation day. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And like, you do not come first. Mom and
Right.
I come first because
Mhm.
and they know, like, they absolutely know date nights are a priority. And you know what?
Yep.
If they have to be stuck in front of the screen because mom and dad need to work things out, so be it. I
Right.
don't,
Yeah,
doesn't
they're going
matter.
to be sad for a little bit, but in the
Yeah.
long run, it's going to be better for them because
Mhm.
they're going to realize I want a guy that's going to prioritize me,
Right.
not a hobby, not kids, not sports, whatever.
Yeah.
Because, I wanted to share this for anybody out there that you're like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, we used to have the passion. We used to be that vine, but we didn't have a trellis with systems. And now we've fallen flat. If
Mm.
that's you, there is hope. Obviously, like what Casey is sharing, and he has so many, him and Megan have so many resources, Marriage 365. I'm going to link it below their website so you can click it. But hit that subscribe button if that's you. Wow, look at Laser Show now.
Oh my
You're getting
gosh.
resources and you're subscribing, because what I love about us being able to interview people like Casey and Megan is that there's not a one-stop shop for marriage. We're all learning and growing together and learning from each other and say, oh yeah, how do you do that? And I've been trying this, seeing what works. But as you were just even sharing that about, once kids are out of the house, you see the divorce rate go through the roof. That's what happened to my parents, is that my dad, he had 2 days off, Tuesday and Thursday, and those were his golf days. And my mom loved Jesus, had us in the church. Even when I'm rebelling, she's dragging me to church. I'm hungover, smell like alcohol. She can tell me, she says, I smell the alcohol through your pores. I was like, well, you make me come here. But I mean, her consistency. I mean, seeds were planted and her prayers. My life, obviously has changed. We're in full-time ministry now. But we got married. My sister was already out of the house. She's older. My brother was in college, just about to ready to graduate. The house is empty. They get divorced. The only thing that was keeping them together was us, because just what like Krissy was saying, they became roommates, and
Joe,
we could see it. My brothers even made comments because he's had this hurt. He said, I don't know how to. He said, I'm doing the best of trying to learn how to be a good dad because I didn't have a good dad, because he wasn't there. And so for anyone out there that this is real stuff. What we're talking about, we're not just trying to get views on YouTube. We're letting you know we've gone through it. Casey is coaching people through this. You're not alone, and you don't have to have your marriage end just because you feel like you've become roommates. There is hope. There is
yeah.
hope. So Casey, anything you want to share also on that?
Yeah, but I want to go back, Joe. I'm kind of curious. What kind of message did you internalize when your parents divorced? Like, what was the message you were getting?
What do you mean the message through that divorce?
Well, they're saying, well, we stayed together for you guys to keep an
Right.
intact home. But how did that make you feel?
The message that I could see, I mean, even when it was happening, was that they had become roommates. And so Krissy and I, we'd given our lives to Christ. And you don't want this. You want to inspire your kids, right? Who they're going to be. We were talking about your kids, they're going to emulate you. And so I think that is even one of the reasons that God directed us towards starting the married life, is that it was like we saw how that marriage failed.
Yeah.
My old pastor, his marriage failed. And so it was seeing these trends in life of like, we have to invest in this, because I've seen it up close and personal twice, now 3 times, of people that are very close to me. And because they don't prioritize marriage, I had, again, 2 pastors, and they prioritized the church. And because they were always with the church, they started spending too much time with somebody at the church that
Yeah.
became a relationship wasn't supposed to. My dad prioritized business. And so Krissy will even tell me this, because it's like I'm so strict with my schedule, where it's like, man, I'm starting as soon as I drop the kids off at school at 8, and I'm done by 3, 4 the latest. When I get home, like, I'm off my phone. And she's like, sometimes you're even too strict on yourself, because she's like, I understand you have to work. They get that too. Because some dads, especially here in Southern California, aren't getting off till 5:30, 6:30 at night.
Later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're working, but it's like, but I know, like, I just heard a pastor say this the other day. He was talking about some younger guys at his church that are on staff, and he leaves the office every day at 3:00. And they're like, how do you leave so early? He said, because when I'm here working, I'm not goofing off. And he's like, you guys goof off. He's like, I'm doing my work. So when I'm done at 3, I don't feel bad shutting my laptop to go home and spend time with my family.
Yeah.
And that's really like seen from them in some of those cases, especially up close and personal, those failures, like, hey, I want to work hard, but I want to play hard. Like I want to play hard now with my kids. And one of the reasons I work out is because I want to make sure that as I'm getting older, I can still wrestle them and I can wrestle my grandkids one day. Like that's my why behind going to the gym, is actually them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I guess it sounds like there's some fear, right? It sounds like that what your parents shared with you was, well, even though we had it all together, it was actually crumbling behind the scenes.
Yep.
So yeah, I just want to say it's interesting because Marriage 365 kind of sits outside the walls of the church. And so we usually get a lot of people that are navigating outside faith communities, but are still looking for hope in their marriage. And it breaks my heart. I know that my view could be myopic because I just deal with marriages. But to see that the church, capital C church, does not provide relevant content resources in abundance for married couples.
Right.
I heard a statistic, 2022 census said that 1 in 4 guys have been raised in fatherless homes. Now, I would probably anecdotally say probably another 50% were raised in a home with a father present, but emotionally vacant.
Right.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So the enemy, his biggest target is the family unit.
Yeah.
Because out of that dysfunction, look at what comes out of it.
Yeah.
So his main target is the marriage.
Yes.
Whether it's lying to people that they don't need to work on their marriage when it's just okay. It's lying to pastors that we're just going to have marriage ministry being a counseling. So when they're in trouble.
Yeah.
But we're not going to do any sort of classes. We're not going to do any retreats. We're not going to invest budgets into marriage resources.
Yep.
And that right there is alarming.
Yeah.
Because the rate of failed marriages is the same in the church as it is outside the church. So what we're doing right now is not working.
Yeah.
Right.
And I love partnering with churches that are like, hey, marriage is going to be our outreach. We want to be known as a community that supports families.
Yeah.
Whether you go to church or not, we're going to give you the tools, the resources, the inspiration, a date night. We're going to watch your kids so you can go out and have some fun, or we're going to have a barbecue on campus so you can eat and connect. Here's some questions.
Yeah.
Like, it is appalling to me that only 3% of churches in America have someone on staff that actually has the marriage moniker.
Wow.
Like marriage person. And well, we're kind of seeing the results, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry,
And
that's me. That's me flipping over some tables. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're spot
Flip them
on.
over.
And that's why even at our old church, where our pastor ended up having a moral failure, that's where we started the married life, was even before that, because there was nothing happening. It was, like Valentine's, there's always the marriage or the conference, right? Yep. It's like, so once a year we're talking about marriages, but majority of the people that are sitting in the seats. And so that's where Krissy and I, again, it's like, we have a passion for this. We're already investing in ourselves. Now we just want to share with others what we're learning. So that's like where for us, we're not experts, we're enthusiasts. Mm-hmm. We're marriage enthusiasts, and we want to pour into people. So that's even like for our church. We did this last year for our church. We did the marriage cruise. And then this year we opened it up for the married life. So we have people signed up from our church, and then also people that join us online. We have couples from Florida, from Indiana, from Northern California signed up. So, hey, if you didn't sign up yet for the cruise, the deadline is, I think it's April 11th.
Or 14th or something
like that. So the link will be below.
Do it.
Hey, yes, do it. Come. We want to hang out. We want to have a good time. And to Casey's point, if you don't have a church, find a local church that is promoting marriage, that has a marriage small group, that has like what you said, when churches have like, hey, we're going to watch the kids so you can go on a date. look for those churches that are supporting you. And then also, obviously, following Marriage 365. I'm going to link their website below. Casey, is there anywhere else you want them to know where they can find their stuff? Where can they get that at?
Share that with your audience.
Yep.
If I send that
Yeah.
to you?
Perfect.
Yes.
Great.
Perfect. So we'll make sure we get that to you too in a link so you can download it below. But Casey, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Oh yeah. We're doing a double date soon.
Yes.
Yes, we are. Now that we're 20 minutes away.
Yes.
That's crazy.
This was so rich. Like I said, I was taking notes. This was so good, guys. I want you to hit subscribe again. And now I want you to go back and watch it and make sure you're taking notes. And when you're looking and saying, okay, I need this, I need somebody who is going to help me put up the trellis because I want that passion back. I want that curiosity back. That's what Marriage 365 is here for you. And if you're not following them on Instagram, you are missing out on some of the funniest reels on marriage out there. So make sure that you are following them. But hey, I'm Joe.
I'm Krissy.
Thanks for joining us for the Married Life. Hit that subscribe button, and we're going to point you to this video right here. There we go. Right here. There's going to be another video to be able to help you out, continue to better your marriage 1% today.